Hey folks, it's Joe. This week I'm in the midst of scoring 5 television series and collecting several new interviews for upcoming episodes. So I'd like to share with you one of my favorite trap set conversations of all time, Brian Blade. See you next week.
It's not only the belief in what you're doing, but the dedication to it and the sharing of it with the hope that it will touch others as much as it has given you joy.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. You're hearing He Died Fighting by Brian Blade and the Fellowship Band, featuring my guest, Brian Blade, on drums. Blade is a native of Shreveport, Louisiana, and was introduced to music at Zion Baptist Church, where his father has served as pastor for over 50 years. Brian exploded onto the scene in the early 90s, and over time has distinguished himself as one of the all-time greats. It would be reductive to call Brian a mere virtuoso, just as it would be reductive to say he possesses one of the most original musical minds on the planet. Brian's true genius lies in his ability to be completely present, emotionally vulnerable, and musically giving, to filter cosmic voices through his own unique prism. These gifts have led Brian to work with artists such as Kenny Garrett, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, and Daniel Lanois. Brian also serves as bandleader for the Fellowship Band and for his Mama Rosa project, for which he sings and plays guitar. I spoke to him at a hotel in Chicago before a recent performance. And now my conversation with one of the all-time greats, Brian Blade.
Your father was a pastor, right?
Yes.
And that was his primary occupation?
Only.
Yeah.
That's, that's another, I guess a whole nother thought, like what we do. And when I think about him particularly, and when I think about the music and the gift and why we're here, and my father, particularly, the difference in a calling and my job. Like, okay.
Right.
But the beauty of possibly those two things being the same thing. Like your mission in life, so to speak, and oh, wow, I happen to support my family doing this.
Right, and those two things coincided for your father.
Absolutely. He was a young minister, sort of confessed his call to the ministry when he was 13. So he went through his high school years dealing with that acceptance for himself, like truly saying, yes, I will do this. And so I know he was challenged, but he's walked it out now for 57 years, as a pastor at Zion Baptist Church in Shreveport, and he's still kind of ascending, in his desire and urgency to to share the gospel. He's really so inspiring, man.
How would you describe your notion of spirituality?
Well, my notion of it. I suppose I look through this Christocentric, glass. God's gift to me, created, I guess to do what I'm doing, but to somehow feel as if I'm giving it back in praise at the same time. Not that I would be glorified or magnified, but to say that, wow, look at what God has done in your life, in my life, and what we're sharing. So I think that's how I see spirituality.
Do you still go to church or practice spirituality in a formalized setting as well?
Yeah, whenever I'm home, I'm always at church. Mostly every Wednesday and Sunday. We have prayer meeting on Wednesdays and 2 services on Sunday. And I'm always playing drums again, like cool. I'm 13 again, which is great that there's this unbroken line there for me as well.
When did you play drums for the first time?
Wow. I'm sure I played around the house as my brother Brady, who's 5 years older, Brady Jr., was playing drums already. Started playing in church as well. And my father bought him a set, and I'm sure I was playing on that set, but I was starting to take lessons from a man named Donald Horton, who my brother had also studied with on a little gray Remo practice pad, in this Rubanks, elementary.
The blue book, yes.
Yeah, the blue book. And that book, it was great to learn that way. And so it was really the pad, but then the set, and then thankfully being Brady left for college when I was 13, and it was just sort of my turn to move into the chair at church, and I was really not even aware. I want to do this. I don't even remember saying that. It was just sort of like my duty at the time. But I'm so happily, I was accepting of that, that duty, and taught me everything that I do, to this day. I stand on that foundation.
What were the church services like?
They were and are still very much, a lot of singing, choral singing and congregational singing. And doxology, just songs of praise and songs of a lot of joy, and a lot of introspection too. The more I think about it, and my father is a big believer in hymns, singing, not so much a lot of contemporary type songs, but more so what he grew up hearing, and preserving that within the services. So I'm really glad about that as well. And but then it all culminates, with the sermon. My father speaks, or someone, a minister, associate of the church, or from a visiting church, speaks to the group who assembled, and that's really the flow,
Did it ever feel overwhelming to have such a powerful man as a father?
Not overwhelming. No, it was always a prideful, thankful thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It gave you confidence by proxy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfectly put. You know, he really. My mother as well. You know, she taught kindergarten for 25, almost 30 years, and they both, you know, had such a dedication in their lives. But for us, they you know, not anything would go.
Right.
But they saw if we had interest. Oh, he wants to play tennis, get him a teacher. Oh, he wants to play drums, get him a teacher. You know, like, they were instilling this, like, really trying to follow whatever it was wholeheartedly, without, you know, ever browbeating us. You know, like, like you have to do this, or you have. I mean, I think there was certain responsibility we knew we had to not step off that speeding train.
Right.
You know, like in terms of you know, like just morality's sake. You know what I'm saying? I think they lived by example a lot. Yeah.
Were they pretty strict in their personal practices? Or?
Well, that's what I mean. They really weren't. You know, of course we got disciplined when we got a little thick-headed.
Yeah.
But they really let us flow. They really let us, you know, experience life. And there was never a time. I mean, obviously we were church kids. You know.
Were they opposed to secular music or anything like
Oh,
that?
absolutely not. No, thankfully there wasn't this legalism or religion that prohibited us from the world we were in, and that balance, the fact that there were no boundary lines for us in that way, I'm so thankful for, because we had to make our own choices. And find our own faith, you know, along the way, you know.
Earlier, you mentioned that your father felt like he was called at around age 13. When do you feel like you were called to be a musician? When did it become something more than just your duty at church?
I don't know. I guess the more I started to play through high school, and a great teacher and actually an employer while I was in high school gave me my first opportunities to play professionally with great musicians. Dorsey Summerfield Jr. He had a group called the Polyphonics, which my brother had been in. He taught at our high school, Caddo Magnet High School.
What kind of group was it?
It was just a quartet, but we played all kinds of songs, you know, dances and balls, and you know the club dates too. This great musician named Leroy Hawthorne played keyboards and some guitar, and Melvin Landry played bass and sang, and Summerfield played saxophone. And anyway, it was just, I don't know, it was really special, you know, like to be a part of that during my high school years, because they were men doing it for real and taking it very serious. Loading in speaker cabinets and CP70s and Fender Rhodes and everything for a date, and then so it really, it's like, okay, this is how this goes.
Did you love it?
I did, absolutely. It was great, and it never got in the way of my enjoyment of school either.
You liked school.
Mm-hmm. I did very much. I'm sure I wasn't the greatest student.
Why not?
I don't know. I just maybe like most. I excelled at the things I really loved. And,
sure. And
I got by with the things. It's like, okay, if I don't have to take Algebra 2, I'd appreciate it. But it was my school environment, high school particularly, well, even middle school. It afforded me such opportunity musically that I wasn't as aware at the time that I was being prepared for what I've been doing now for the last almost 30 years. But so to answer your question specifically, I don't know when I really I think I was on the road for a decade before I thought, oh, I guess this is what I do.
So it wasn't like you heard a voice in your head that said, this is what you should do. It wasn't that the same experience that perhaps your father had.
No, it was sort of a, I feel like there was some destiny there that was unfolding that I was unaware of, and kind of realized it after I looked back after a while. That hindsight of, like I say, or just things that, when I got my driver's license at 16, maybe in Louisiana it was 15. A dear friend of mine named Roger Barnes, great keyboardist, pianist in Shreveport, gave me 2 cassettes, Joni Mitchell, Hejira, and Mingus. And I had my little VW Beetle that my dad taught me how to drive in. And I put those cassettes in, going to high school every day. And I felt, something imparted from those cassettes. Life, was different, listening to those, to Joni's music.
How did your life change by listening to Joni?
It was just something I'd never heard before. I'd, heard obviously quite a bit of gospel, the Hawkins family and
right.
staple singers, and then Al Green, and then into Stevie Wonder and the Jacksons and Earth, Wind and Fire. But then Joni spoke in another kind of poetic way and descriptive way, and has her own harmonic, sensibility that was so new to me. But it touched me right away. It wasn't just that it was different, it was that it spoke to me as well.
Did you play guitar at the time?
No, that didn't happen until the early 90s.
Okay.
Sometime after getting to know my friend Daniel Lanois.
Yes.
But it's weird. I'm thinking back to the Shreveport days, starting to buy the first records I bought, and I remember the first 3 jazz records I bought were Miles Davis live at the Plug Nickel,
great,
with Tony Williams, yes. Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Wayne Shorter, and Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Ugetsu, also with Wayne Shorter, and Wayne Shorter's Juju album.
Yes.
Now, I didn't put this together until I got home. I was like, oh, it's interesting, the thread here, Wayne Shorter's on all 3 of these. I didn't know what I was purchasing, really. You just
thought the covers looked cool or
well,
something?
No, well, the names had been recommended.
Okay.
Mr. Summerfield said, go get these records. He didn't name those 3 specifically, but once I got in the store, I was, and so, I don't know, I just feel like there was, again, this destiny at play with being given those 2 cassettes, purchasing those 3 albums, and Wayne Shorter and Joni Mitchell later becoming such a blessing in my life. They were already just by hearing their music, but to know them,
Right.
I don't know. I couldn't have dreamt that or wished that.
Really?
No.
What were you dreaming and wishing for at the time?
I don't think I maybe.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you the kind of person that dreams of things in the future?
Huh.
Or are you more in the moment? Like, do you make plans? Or
I think I'm more in the moment, sometimes to a fault. But yeah, it's weird. I never made those kinds of plans. I felt led, like when I moved to New Orleans to go to Loyola University after seeing John Vodakovich and Steve Metzger. I felt like I just didn't have to ask certain questions. I was going where I was supposed to go, and I was where I was supposed to be. Like I say, I really felt like a leading. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like I'm having to ask more questions. To make plans, to try and look out for the band and others, my family, but there was that time when there were no questions.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
Earlier you mentioned that if you expressed an interest in something as a child, your parents would find you a teacher. Lots of the artists that I've spoken to found themselves incompatible with the academic setting when it came to learning music. Mm-hmm. What was your experience?
Well, mine, from the very beginning, even going back to elementary school in North Highlands, there was a woman named Lucy Bond, and we had music appreciation. And that was revelatory when I look back at it, because, it was the first time I heard Ravel's music, mm-hmm. And we all got to play recorder and these Orff instruments, and it just all felt very free, and like you were being taught, but you were also just like being introduced and loosed to, like, here's music. Isn't this joyful? And, do you want to be in the orchestra? Yeah, sure. So I, started playing violin.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I mean, the public school was rocking in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a, I'm really thankful for all those teachers and, like allowing you to, just letting you in on it,
So it felt like a joyous experience to you. It didn't feel like it was sterile in that environment.
Never. Even with Donald Horton and the Remo practice pad.
Do you attribute that to your personal attitude or to the fact that you were lucky enough to have great teachers?
I think it's more so the great teachers, but I also, the willingness and hopefully my attitude was right, and I wanted to I wanted to get better at whatever it was I was doing. So, or know a little more. So, man, it was always great. Tilmer Keels in middle school, who was an architect, who actually had a moment there where I wanted to be an architect, and then a pediatrician, and then but I ended up.
So there were other things that you wanted to do.
There were other things, but I wouldn't call them dreams.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was. Just like, oh.
That could be fun, yeah.
Yeah, there were interest or a desire, and something I thought, oh, okay, my pediatrician was such a great guy. I guess maybe he was the reason why I wanted to. Harvey Carter, he was great. Wore a bow tie. Anyway.
I can picture him. Yeah.
But I don't know, Joe, it's funny.
I picture him having like a glass full of suckers that he
it
hands out
totally
at the end
did
with his bow tie.
Yeah. Oh yes, you nailed him. Right? That's him. Those suckers with the white loop
Right.
handle. Ooh.
Yes.
That's so great.
How would you describe your relationship with your brother Brady when you were growing up?
Brady was the best big brother ever, man, because he took me everywhere with him. After a certain point, when he was kind of, free to drive and go, and he was doing all that stuff so early. We had motorcycles when we were kids, and Brady would be like on the interstate or jumping the aqueducts, and my dad would be like, "Wait, what is he doing? I'm gonna sell these motorcycles." So I mean, Brady was just great. He just let me be with him, and so that had a great influence on me, just watching him, and even still we get to play together, thankfully, with the Hallelujah Train project that features our father and the church choir. So it's deep. He's great.
Did he turn you on to any music in particular?
Yeah, Brady had quite a few records when I was growing up, so I inherited a lot of his records. Like the first time I would have heard Bob Marley.
Oh, cool.
Kaya, or the first time I heard Chick Corea, or the Ohio Players.
Right.
or I remember, actually, I didn't buy this, but my grandmother bought it for me. My grandma Rosa took us to Pseudo Records and bought us records. And I forget how old I was, but remember the Casablanca label?
Yeah, the disco label.
Parliament was on that label, and Kiss was on that label.
Donna Summer.
I mean, incredible. What a roster. Anyway, my brother bought Funkadelic and the Placebo Syndrome. My grandma bought it for him, rather. And I think I got Kiss. Was it Destroyer? I can't remember.
You were a Kiss kid.
Oh, man, definitely. Kiss was,
I mean, pretty much everybody that I've interviewed from your particular, anyone that was born from like the mid '60s to the early '70s. Yeah. So, what do you feel when you hear a Kiss song now?
I still love it.
You do?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, man. I'm just like, this is great. We had a set of black, sort of wrapped fiberglass, an internal layer of pearl drums, at the church. my entire, well, for the first, I don't know, until I left for college. And, I always think about Peter Criss, and I think about like all these things that, I don't know, maybe they were coincidence, but they are sort of aligned.
Well, it's interesting because like Parliament, Funkadelic, and Kiss are both fantasy-driven groups, where they have like a whole iconography about them. True. And they both seem like they're from outer space or something.
That's true. I guess Kiss sort of, they came straight out with it, masked and kind of this just great rock songwriting, but like, yeah, the sense of theater. But then the evolution of George Clinton and Parliament is it's deep.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing artists who come out of this
The doo-wop thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, like the Parliaments and this sort of straight-laced suit and tie
Yes.
aesthetic of America. And then we're going to be like, okay, well,
Now it's time for Megget brand.
Spaceship, yeah. Getting on the spaceship. Going out. It's great, man.
What factored into the decision to go to Loyola?
Several things. First, John Mahoney, who was the director of jazz studies. While I was in high school, as a combo, we competed at Louisiana Tech in Ruston as part of a annual jazz competition they had, and he was one of the judges, and I think he had some encouraging things to say. And I ended up visiting this school, visiting Loyola during their jazz festival, and J.J. Johnson was the guest that year. Yeah, John Mahoney's an incredible trombonist and arranger and writer as well. Anyway, I got to hear John Vodakovich on that trip, and I'd heard about John Vodakovich when I was part of Allstate in Louisiana All-State Band, jazz band, when I was a sophomore in high school. And there were guys who were from lower parts of Louisiana, me from Shreveport in the northwestern corner, and then these guys who were from Baton Rouge and Lafayette and New Orleans. They had seen Johnny V. And so to finally see him, and I thought, oh man, I want to be around this guy, and learn from him. So he was a big reason why,
And then what did you end up learning from him?
Man, this beautiful, holistic sense of rhythm and conceptualizing rhythm from this view of, and he said it before, and I just saw it on a little clip, but that within everything else exists. Speaking rhythmically, but then I started to apply it to my whole life, and just those times I got to spend with him, going to his house.
You mean like within that cup of coffee, the universe exists?
So
and
much.
All the love in the world exists?
So much so, coming out of the earth. Exactly.
That kind of a thing?
Yes, that kind of a thing. Totally. But
okay, I understand. I feel like that's a big concept, but then how does that actually affect the way that you approach the instrument when you start playing music?
Well, I guess it's a big idea, and usually, I'm not thinking when I'm playing.
Yeah.
If I am, I'm in trouble.
Has that always been the case?
I think so. Now, if I really think about and look at it, and knowing how I operate now, I think it's always been the case.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And if you and I were thinking about what our tongues and mouths were doing for each syllable that we were forming in this conversation, it would mess everything up.
Yeah. Everything would grind to a halt, probably.
Well, but I think that's one of your greatest strengths as an artist, is your ability to turn off that part of your mind. I don't think everybody can do that all the way every time. Is that something you've had to work towards?
No, it's really been these opportunities. Of course, this bedrock of playing in church and in a praise environment where people are there well, they're simultaneously looking inward, but they're looking outward.
Right.
They're reaching. And that is the key, I think, when you're making music with others. You gotta, what's John saying? What's Chris saying? What's Myron saying? What's Melvin saying? What's needed in this moment? Not thoughts. These are actions and reactions, to make the thing really blossom and fly, hopefully. So that whole within everything else exists,
Yeah.
that Johnny kind of imparted to me, it's an African concept. It's not only the rhythm, but humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
What makes somebody a great artist in your interpretation?
It's not only the belief in what you're doing, but the dedication to it and the sharing of it with the hope that it will touch others as much as it has given you joy.
That's interesting that you mentioned the sharing component, because some would say that you could be a great artist in a vacuum, or you could just write great songs in a basement.
I suppose.
I've always thought of that like being a farmer that grows beautiful crops and then lets them rot, in a certain way. That's
a deep analogy, and I feel like maybe you're right. I went through a little bit of that struggle with a record I did called Mama Rosa.
Yeah.
Because I was very content with it remaining this sort of diary on a 4-track.
Well, Mama Rosa it's your first album as a singer-songwriter, and you're playing guitar on it, and it's inspired by your grandmother, correct?
Yeah.
And I wonder if it felt more vulnerable to be singing and playing guitar than it does to be playing drums.
Well, at the time, since I really hadn't shared that part of myself with anyone, I guess it did feel more vulnerable. But all of a sudden you start putting words on things, and again, going back to Joni Mitchell, if you're really letting something be revealed, that you experienced, and it's, you're just, okay, I'm an uninsulated wire, just, out there, So that aspect of it perhaps can be scary, but, again, I thought, okay, this is between me and God, and I'm fine with just knowing that it's here, But then it started not to be enough.
Yeah.
For it to just live on my little tape machine. And now I know, because of my wife, because of Laura, there's certain things that I'm speaking about directly to her. And had she not heard that record when it came out, we might not be together right now. So
good thing you put it out.
Good thing you gotta. That, I mean, again, you have to release it. I'm not talking about record companies. I'm not talking about business.
You're talking about putting it out into the world.
You gotta let it, in that big idea way. Yes.
Because I think by doing that, the conceit is that it's not yours. It's the world's. It came to you through you, but it doesn't belong to you necessarily.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, like, I dare say our very lives. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you think of it that way.
Do you think of it that way?
I absolutely do.
Another component in your definition of greatness is believing in what you're doing. Have you always believed in what you're doing as a drummer? Were there times when you doubted yourself?
No, I think I've hit these little pockets, like kind of like flying through turbulence that doesn't last long. But you question, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah, can you give me an example?
The first time I went to play with Joni, and we were recording, I wanted to make I just wanted to bring the right thing. What does the song need? What does she need? And what, so like I was, maybe a little scared about that, like, because I obviously been such a fan and admirer, and
She'd already made such an impact on your life.
exactly the gift. I couldn't thank her enough for just doing what she was called to do, and sharing it. But so that was one instance. But she set my heart at ease, or at least my mind, and heart, to just give me that liberty. So I've been really fortunate in that way with people I work with. They trust me enough to bring me in and to bring what hopefully.
You're saying it just took a minute for you to sync up with her in that situation.
Well, actually, it didn't. It didn't take a minute to sync up. It just took me a minute to sync with my belief that I was bringing the right thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she was in sync, and I was. She knew. She trusted, rather, I should say. And I'm always open, no matter who I'm playing with. I want to serve.
Yeah.
That's the service aspect of what I do. It's it's primary.
The tour bus came yesterday. The driver's a mess today. It's a dump of a destiny, but it's got a new. Now the kid must see through blackness. She's moving it hard on this holy virus. Since the preacher's not dead, that drunk will have to do. Jasmine is so mercilessly sweet.
The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
Who are you serving when you're leading a band?
Everybody else there on stage, everybody listening, but definitely the band itself, totally.
Has there ever been a time when you felt disconnected from that joy in making music?
No. I mean, there's the rigors of traveling, touring. It takes its toll sometimes on you, physically and then emotionally. But there's always, I don't have to restore the joy. It just, you walk on stage, you sit down at the drums, or pick up the guitar, and it's like, oh man, yeah, and I'm in it, So it's great. What it took to get to that moment, however difficult or challenging that might have been, it vanishes.
How do you regard yourself as an artist? Like, are you hard on yourself?
Maybe somewhat, yes. Yeah.
How does that manifest?
Well, it's moment to moment, actually. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, especially when we're in the music, and if there's things, missed, or in my mind, a mistake, or I couldn't execute something, that moment, it's
gone.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So, okay, I have to. So I always think about what Wayne Shorter would say. He's like, it's not a mistake, it's an opportunity.
Sure.
So I always try and, I think deep in my mind that's turning in my spirit, and I try not to beat myself up about missing it, because maybe it actually yielded another.
Right.
thing, direction.
Well, do you beat yourself up about anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like artistically?
Artistically, I mean, sure. I wish we could have put out 100 records so far. I wish we could have recorded all the ideas in a timely manner. Mm-hmm. But years have gotten away, and projects have come and gone. And
why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a lack of my ambition or know-how to seize the moment in that way. Maybe the living in the moment, doing it, I forget, like, oh, how can we preserve this?
Right. Although, if you were too far on the other side of the spectrum, then the music wouldn't be as good, probably.
There's that balance. Yeah, I've dealt with that, trying to seek opportunities for the band and book things and deal with the business. You'll end up sitting at your computer all day, and you wouldn't have written a note, and that is tragic.
Do you structure your day in such a way that you're setting aside a certain amount of time for each of those things?
Yes, even just the last, year, I've had to become more conscious of that, because I've realized that the balance has started to shift, and that has made me, angry.
Yeah, when you're like, wait, all I did today was send out emails.
Exactly.
It feels in the moment like you're getting things done, but then you're like, well, what?
I know. And then you just want to throw your laptop, in the river and kind of get back to, what was life like before I had this thing? And my answering machine was there in fax, and I sat at my guitar and my drums all day.
I honestly think, and I say this as somebody who's mildly addicted to looking at my telephone, but I think that whatever properties they're discovering, whatever kind of benefits we get from meditation or prayer are totally reversed by social media. Like whatever, to me,
I understand.
Like that, looking at the phone, it's reversing something.
I understand. So
it's taking me out of life.
This negative effect. I know.
I think so. I mean, we're still going to do a selfie after this, Brian, for Instagram. But
let's just get that straight. Well, it's something we have to guard ourselves. Like speaking of guarding our hearts. I say this in a not that everything is bad. That how can we use the benefit of this?
Sure.
Well, this whatever technology, this other thing that's kind of trying to consume 24 hours of my day.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's the realization that thing has more power over me than I'm willing to give it credit for, and I have to be aware of that.
Wow, man. Well,
because it's engineered to keep you using it.
It's a drug.
It is a drug. It's a drug and a tool.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think, like you say, if in terms of our spirits, and what we're having to do, like in our lives, to, I guess, generate things, opportunities. But like, have I ever spent like an hour and a half praying? No.
But you've spent an hour and a half on your computer.
See, that's evil, man. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean,
if you just break down your day into a graph,
wow,
it might reveal something. Well, how often do you pray?
Oh, I mean, it's actually, total sum all the time throughout the day. There's moments, I have a moment.
What do you pray about?
Well, I pray for my family. I pray for a certain wisdom, selfishly, to be guided, to be led.
Wait, why is that selfish to pray for a certain wisdom?
Well, I mean, not, and I don't say selfish in a bad way, but it's just, sometimes I forget that I need it too. So I guess it maybe to say selfish is incorrect, but I think we need to be concerned for our own well-being as well, you know, and so that you can hopefully help others in the process.
The scent of honeysuckle growing on the fence reminds me of you and childhood innocence. Reading S.C. Hinton's Rumblefish gave me dreams of motorcycles. Though I tried to hold on to yesterday, we won't stay innocent for long. So be strong and thankful for every day. It was grace that carried us this far.
This episode of The Trap Set is sponsored in part by The Stoic Drummer. The Stoic Drummer is a tersely innovative book which applies a series of Stoic axioms, meditations, and universal quotes to the art of drumming. Authored by Jose Medelis, the first run of The Stoic Drummer sold out in just 10 days. You can order your copy at revivaldrumshop.com.
You have your guitar out, and you said that you started playing guitar in the early 90s. What was the impetus to start playing guitar?
I had met Daniel Lanois around 1993, just as he was about to release a record he did called For the Beauty of Winona. He had been living in New Orleans for some years, and I moved there in '88. Anyway, we met and became fast friends and went on tour for like 3 months. And we're still, you know, he's such an important person in my life and a friend, and we're still making music together. And I'm thankful for that. So being around him and seeing his process and watching him write songs and being around him and you know, his guitar is there. And so all of a sudden, I think it connected perhaps with my early years playing violin. I felt this connection with the guitar that I didn't necessarily feel with piano. I never had piano lessons. But when I picked up the guitar, I was like, oh, I can I'm hearing stuff and I can get things out. And I just, you know, it kind of started that way.
Did you study it with somebody?
No, not really. I was trying to be watchful, you know, being around my heroes, playing guitar.
And you also had the foundation of musicianship from all of your other studies that you could apply to it, presumably.
That's true. I think so. And I think part of the battle, like people tell me sometimes, oh man, I've always wanted to play drums, you know. Well, I was like, I think 99% of the battle is getting some, you know. Yeah,
and then finding a place where you can play.
Yeah, exactly. If you're at them every day, I mean, come on, you know, like, let's just, I think you could do it, you know. That's what I believe, at least, you know. Maybe it's naive, but.
Do you think it's an imperative, if somebody wants to play the kind of music that you play, for them to spend years of their life learning how to play licks that Max Roach played and learning how to play what Elvin did, or have a Tony phase or an Art Blakey phase?
Well, I feel like that lineage, that language, those creators, why would you not want to take it into your...
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to something the other day, like last night. I mean, they played a piece from Crescent called The Drum Thing. And I was listening to Elvin, and I was just, oh my God, you know, like... He's kind of said it all. Like, I mean, we have to try and become ourselves. But man, he imparted so much. So,
yeah,
you know, you should, I think, embrace it. And it's not going to make you less of.
No,
you know.
I do see that there's somewhat of a liturgical strain among academic institutions sometimes, where it's like you're not qualified to have a voice until you internalize all this other stuff. So for me, it's been like finding a balance where I can be inspired by those people, but realizing that there's no way. Just like I couldn't walk across this room with the same stride as Elvin, I could never swing like he swings. Nobody can.
We're fully acknowledging that.
No
doubt.
It's just, but I think my life is so much more rich for spending all that time listening to it.
Of course.
And trying to like figure out kind of what he was doing.
Exactly. I think it enriches your expression and it allows you. I don't know. It gives you so much ammunition.
Yeah.
Love ammunition, you know. It really does.
Did you get to spend much time with Elvin?
Not much time, but we did share 2 opportunities. I got to play opposite him for a week at the Blue Note in New York, so I got to speak with him, you know, throughout the week.
Was that intimidating in any way?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yes and no, but he was
so nice.
Exactly, he'd embrace you and just, you know, give you his a hug and talk with you, like, you know, with no issue.
He was a guitar player too.
Oh man, that's right, Billy Higgins. I wish I could have. I wish I'd have been a little more conscious about, like, through high school, but even up to that time with Elvin, where, I mean, now it's like you were joking about, we're going to take a selfie after this, but I didn't even have the wherewithal to take a photo with him or just record a little conversation with him for my posterity, you know, just.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have been thinking that way more, but again, I was in the moment.
Yeah, and also the memory is probably richer for it in some ways.
It is. I mean,
there's some social theorists that say having all this technology attenuates the experience.
Right. Well, I can't. I don't. You know, no regrets, and I, you know, the experience. You know, it won't be taken away. You know, it's still in there.
As an adult, who have been the most important mentors in your life?
I would say Wayne Shorter. He has absolutely been an incredible mentor, an inspiration. 20 years.
Wow.
Well, the quartet came together in 2000, so that's been a, you know, almost 18-year run now. So it's you know, ever since the first time I heard his sound on a record, in a way, the mentorship began then, and then I met him.
I mean, I think he's one of the great composers of all time as well.
No question.
Have you learned anything that you can apply to your songwriting from just watching him work?
Yes and no. I haven't. I wish I could say, okay, well, yeah, Wayne would do this
right
at this moment, but watching him compose, it's a very slow and methodical thing. Beautiful. Unlike his improvising is like, you know, it's what it is. It's truly in the moment and it's flowing, but with a great compositional genius mind that, you know, that he is. So it's interesting to watch him to see, you know, when he presents us with a score and to see it in his hand. Wow. And to, you know, so I try and crawl along, you know, looking at what he's written as if I were, you know, in the music library at Loyola, you know, pulling out a score and listening to the record, you know, following along.
Do you ever ask him about it?
Not really. I I'm the well, not always, but like for instance on stage, I'm the farthest away from him.
Yes.
So Danilo and John usually get those questions in even before I can. So it's great. They're always in this conversation, not so much about music, but like chewing on these concepts.
If you don't ask him questions, as a mentor, how does he inform your view of the world?
Well, it's more so. It's not so much through the music. I mean, it is, but so specifically, it's more so about this holistic sense of life and what value creation is about. I guess which comes from his faith,
Yeah.
and how we can walk out this certain mission together musically. I think it's kind of like there's a frequency that is unique to him and that is unique in the universe, and when that sound goes out, there's a healing that happens. And so to have shared in that for so long, that is how he has mentored me. He's kind of he just let me in on it, so to speak.
Do you feel like over the years it's changed the way that you conduct yourself as a person?
I know that it is bettered my view of things.
Like you mentioned value creation. What does that mean to you?
I think it means, like I say, if I were to look at something he wrote, and the care with which each note was put on the page, you could tell that there's this abounding love and something of value being placed in ink, in blood, on the page. And I think that thing, whether anybody even ever sees it outside of me or Danilo and John, I think it's still resounding,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like that value creation, it gets multiplied, hopefully by us, through us, and through all that might experience Wayne.
You mentioned your wife earlier. When did you meet?
We were 16.
Wow.
And we met at my high school, in my high school band room.
And you've been together ever since?
No, I went to college, and unfortunately we weren't together. I left her, and against I think if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have made that choice. But I don't know, kind of have to start again.
Yeah.
And we did, thankfully.
And do you have children?
Well, I inherited 3. Yeah.
She had children in the intervening years.
Yeah, and those 20 years apart.
Oh, 20 years apart.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been married for how long?
Almost 8 years now.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
How has becoming a stepfather changed your life?
Wow. It has let me know what, just a glimpse actually of what my parents might feel. Unfortunately, I missed the beautiful, from birth to crawling to walking to school to being a teenager. I sort of stepped in late in the game there, but I see them as these little ones, and I know now that they have to make their own choices, in life, and I can't control that. I just want to try and share what I might see and what I might have experienced with them, and hopefully, and I know Lura, she's imparted such love, and shared all of herself with them. So it's the good stuff's in there. They know, and now they're on their own. I mean, they have us always, but they're really on their own. So it's kind of changed how I see my, all those years when I was doing my thing and wouldn't call home for weeks or months, or just be on the road. It's like, really, like they're thinking about you,
right?
They're praying. They're I can feel, like, okay, what are you doing? Like, just reach out to them, because you won't have them forever.
Have you told that to your parents in retrospect? Sorry that I didn't call you.
No, I haven't. Maybe I should, but I think they know. They always know.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Merge Records, the label that over the last 25 years has been home to many great bands, including The Magnetic Fields, Spoon, and Neutral Milk Hotel. Check out recent releases by Wyoke, Superchunk, Tracy Thorn, Titus Andronicus, and Ott. Listeners of this podcast get 20% off any order by visiting mergerecords.com and using coupon code TRAPSET. As always, domestic shipping is free. Again, go to mergerecords.com and enter TRAPSET at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. Merge Records, home of independent music since 1989.
What are your intentions artistically for the near future?
Well, I want to sort of step it up a bit with frequency of output. So many ideas, going around in my head, and things that we kind of missed, and I want to document as much as we can now, with Fellowship Band, with Mama Rosa Band, with all of these ideas. So that's my hope right now. It's just to be able to do more recording and playing.
What is the most challenging thing that you're facing right now in your life?
How to see and hear and to know how to act upon what you see and hear, what I see and hear, and how not to, well, to be stirred by it, but not to move in anger, to not have my heart hardened by things that upset me, but to somehow have it transformed into a loving action.
Like what makes you angry?
Oh, well, I don't know if I want to get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's myself, sometimes it's my own lack of something, but it's really, I don't know. I guess maybe that's everybody's challenge, whether we acknowledge it or not.
Right. If you were to give somebody a drum lesson, a beginner, what would be the goal for the first lesson?
Oh, wow. I would, I would first see what they naturally play. Like, not start them with like, well, do this. I would just say, play something. And I think it would begin from there. I think it would reveal the next step, naturally. Like, okay, they hear this, or there's no idea as to even how to hold the sticks, or I'd love to see what happens without any sort of guidance or instruction first.
It seems like what your strategy would be is to honor their voice from the beginning, instead of saying you're not qualified to have a voice. Like, here's how do you hold the drumsticks, and here's a practice pad.
Right? No.
Connecting to that inner joy as soon as possible.
Totally, because man, that thing is. It can be threatened, and you can lose that child in you so fast. You just all of a sudden you're dealing with stuff.
I feel like I've lost it sometimes, and it's scary.
Yeah, I know. I feel that way too. It's again, we have to guard ourselves. We have to guard that child. Somehow, I think Wayne has kept that child alive in himself and in his imagination and in his walk. So yeah, it's possible.
I wonder though. So here's the thing. I wonder. We've talked a lot about how you've been led. So where do you draw the line between what the universe is doing for you or guiding you towards, or what God is doing for you?
Yes.
And then where's your personal responsibility?
Well, I feel like there are certain things now. Like I say, I never had to ask questions back when I was in my early teens, and I don't know. I feel like God's permissive will. Like we have the will. We can do whatever we want, but do we really want to? That's the question. Is this what I think? My question is this, and often I try and pray this, like, God, if this is not you, please guide me another way.
Yeah.
If I'm wanting this thing, if I'm wanting to do this, or because it looks attractive, but it's not you, please send me another way. And so we have to find that spirit man in ourselves, and it's like the bit in the horse's mouth, really. Like if we're trying to, God's taming these wild things. I feel like myself, but once we're in His control, we're in His care. He doesn't have to tug at the reins. He can just give a little dangle to the right, and boom, we look, and there is the direction we need to go. Or He pulls a little to the left, and boom, there's the direction we need to go. So I feel like I'm trying to listen to, feel the reins within my soul, when it comes to choices. I don't always get it right. Sometimes I make those choices and say, well, that was a
learning experience.
Yeah, that was and
that was an opportunity.
Yeah, that was an opportunity, and perhaps that was what God wanted for me too.
To learn, yeah, exactly.
And it could be hard. It could have been really like I'm questioning, like, why am I here? Why am I in this? But sometimes things aren't revealed for years, as to why. So I have to be willing to accept that within the tug of the reins as well, to know.
Right. Yeah, it seems like it's part of your attitude to try to view it as a positive thing.
Yeah.
To know that down the line, maybe it will be part of your makeup or your composition as a person.
I think I have to look at it that way.
Well, other people might bemoan those situations and see it as something holding them back. But you've found a way to kind of use it as a stepping stone to whatever is next.
Yeah.
So according to your definition of greatness, do you think of yourself as great?
I don't think of myself as great. I think of myself as hopefully one who's trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think more so.
Well, as somebody outside of yourself, I consider you great because you are in the moment and you do believe what you're doing, and you bring a lot of joy to not only me, but plenty of people around the world. So, Brian Blade, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you talking.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.
Shadows are falling, and I've been here all day. It's too hot to sleep, and time is running away. Feel like my soul has turned into steam. I've still got the scars that the sun didn't heal. There's not even room enough to be anywhere. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there.